Your call went unnoticed against the harsh winds of the wasteland, fading into nothing as you trudged further across the dunes. Most of your strength had left you long ago, the dim light of your body barely pushing you forward, the haunting shrills of the dark dragons that attacked you still fresh in your mind. You had lost track of the moth that accompanied you through the broken temple, flying off without waiting for you and leaving you alone in the graveyard. And being the naive moth you were, you attempted to fly after them, only to fall prey to the darkness and be hunted for every last of your light. It was a miracle you managed to get away from those crimson eyes. You shivered at the lack of warmth you had. You had no spark to ignite the candles you passed by, which were few and far between, the unnerving cold on your back bringing you a sense of vulnerability. You had no idea how far the realm of golden wasteland stretched until you reached the end. You weakly called out once more, the soft ring of your voice echoing faintly in hopes of some sort of response. You kept pushing through the sand, which you could have sworn was growing thicker each step you took, continuously calling out as you scanned the desolate horizon. Strange platforms stuck out from the sand, crumbled pillars and large spears lay abandoned alongside them, and the faint, looming outline of another temple just off in the distance. The sight of the foggy outline reignited a small spark of hope as you tried to quicken your pace, despite the growing cold taking over you. Maybe this was the end of this vast wasteland, and you were able to escape this realm and return home, where it was bright, familiar, and safe. You picked up the sounds of faint rumbling against the harsh winds, fear creeping up your back when you heard the blood-curdling screech of the darkness slowly growing near. 3 glowing eyes began to appear from the horizon, and all hope was drained the moment you realized you wouldn't be able to make it to the temple in time. Still, you tried to push towards the beacon of safety, holding on to the last ounce of strength you had as you trudged forward, tears staining your eyes. You were sent to this world by the gods for a reason, and now you might never know what that reason was. You failed as a child of light. You failed the elders, your ancestors, the spirits. As the blood-red light circled you, trapping you in its leering gaze, you turned to the dragon before you, its serpentine body pulled back in a menacing stance. There was no mercy. There was no hope. Only the darkness engulfing you in its grasp. You helplessly succumbed to it, wishing for another, better start in your next life as you shut your eyes, allowing the last of your tears to trail down your face. It never came. You heard a call similar to yours, echoing frantically as you were snatched from the ground just before the darkness took hold of you. There was a flash of white, piercing your vision like an arrow before you realized the light came back to you, feeling the comfort of the cape settled on your shoulders. You also felt the arms that lifted you from the ground wrapped securely around you, the unfamiliar child of light flying towards the temple, all while managing to outfly the creatures of darkness with a skill you had never seen. Their call rang to you in a form of comfort and reassurance as they flew past the ruins of the battlefield and into the temple, gliding through an open gate lined with red candles. Only when you were deep into the heart of the temple did the mysterious child let you go, your legs still trembling in shock and giving out from underneath you. After making sure you were okay and back on your feet, the child gave you a small wave and turned their back to you. That was when you noticed the 10 star-shaped wedges etched into their cape. They weren't a mere moth. They had been here longer than you have, and those wedges proved it. "Wait!" you called. The child turned back to you, and you held a candle to them. You wanted to see the face of your savior. You practically owed your life to them. They tilted their head at first, but soon, the child that saved you was illuminated as they held their own candle out to match yours, the flames casting a warm glow against the metal surface of their mask, getting lost in the wild spiked-up hair that sat upon their head. Their tattered red cape shone like a wildfire, and you had to catch your breath at how bright they shone against the bleakness of the temple. "Thank you," you whispered against the whistling winds. You're welcome. It's what I do, he replied with a light chuckle. His eyes shone from under the mask, and that was when you noticed one of the holes had been chipped away, forming a scar-like crack just above his eye. Yeah, he had definitely been in this realm for quite some time. He held his arm out, pointing towards a stone statue, a rusted spear and shield at its side. Sit by the elder statue, and you'll find yourself in the next realm. He gave a gentlemanly bow. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to find more moths that need guidance. It's the manly thing to do. You heard the smile in his voice as he turned to leave the temple. And, strangely enough, you began to miss his presence. Ever since you were brought into this world, you had avoided most of the wandering children and traveled the world independently. The first time you allowed yourself to interact with other children, they practically left you for dead. But your savior, he had to be the first kind soul you had encountered, and going out of his way to put himself at risk just to help sky kids like you, it made a question linger on your lips. Will I ever see you again? He seemed to stop in his tracks, and it was the moment you realized you had spoken those words out loud. Your hands flew to cover your mouth, mask, as you apologized profusely. His lack of response made you anxious, and you mentally cursed at yourself for inconveniencing him. You pressed at your hands as your gaze traveled to the floor. You only looked up when an orange glow radiated from the corner of your vision, which turned out to be a pure white candle. The child held it out to you, and you noticed that his mask was missing, revealing his rather charming face. He had a wide smile, baring sharp teeth as the flames painted his skin, accentuating the scar above his eye that happened to match his mask. This was the first time anyone had tried to befriend you, and you weren't sure if you were worthy to accept an offer of friendship from the one that saved you. Despite it all, you accepted it, the candle disappearing in a flurry of orange sparks before it was absorbed into you. You turned back to the child as he held his hand out for you to take, giving a smile that promised you safety. The name's Eijirou, and I guess you'll be seeing me more often.